Very good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Kath Smith, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Eamon Watson, our veterinary advisor. So today's topic, this is part 5 of a series, so welcome along if you haven't joined us before. We are going to be looking at PD testing and the PAG information, and that will be covered by Eamon in a moment. But just as a general information, a couple of screens here on the webinar itself. So you've all got a control panel on the right hand side of your screen. You'll be able to enter a question in this box here. At any time throughout the presentation, you can just type something in and we will come to those at the end. Absolutely fine. Or if it's easier, rather than typing reams and reams, just press the hand button and then we can come to you again at the end if that's okay, and open up the phone line if necessary. You can ask your question directly. The other thing, just checking a couple of settings. If you're looking at this thinking, well, I can't hear much going on, it might be not set to computer audio. So just check you've got computer audio, or if you've dialed in, that should be the setting there. That's excellent. Right, so that's enough from me for a little minute. I'm going to hand over to Eamon. Just 1 second. Right, Eamon, you're unmuted. And
okay, thanks, Ken. Let's just get that.
There we go. That's perfect.
Yeah, you can see my screen. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Eamon Watson. As Kath said, I'm one of the veterinary advisors with NMR. What I want to do is just sort of for 10 minutes, we're going to go through the PAG test, and I want to share with you findings from a study that we did, a study completed in 2018. To share those findings with you so you can see how this test can be used in practice. So first things first, what are PAG? So PAG are pregnancy associated glycoproteins, and the important thing about this is that these are proteins that are secreted by cells in the placenta. So the placenta is fetal in origin, so the follow on from that is that there must be a pregnancy for PAG to be produced. So PAG comes from cells in the placenta, must be a pregnancy to get PAG. So PAG are pregnancy specific. And the important thing, of course, is that we can measure these PAG levels. We can measure them in milk, and in the same way we can measure them in blood. But we're going to focus on measuring PAG in milk. So the principle is that the PAG levels increase rapidly from about 28 days gestation. They then dip slightly around 60 days before then they rise again through gestation right the way through to calving. So the principle is that we can measure those PAG levels and determine the pregnancy status or otherwise of that cow. In the same way that PAG levels rise when there is a pregnancy, PAG levels will decrease when pregnancy is lost, and that's the bit that we're going to focus on for this part of the presentation. So pregnancy loss, and there are various estimates of, let's say, normal pregnancy loss. I've adapted one of these in that chart there, and you can see generally there's greater loss early on, sort of, from the late embryonic period through to the fetal period, and estimates of around 10% after 42 days post breeding would be quite common to see through the literature. We've then got the fact that detecting these cows with a pregnancy loss is obviously very important, and high yielding cows, they may not show signs of estrous behavior, and so detecting that cows have actually lost a pregnancy sometimes can be difficult. So those undetected pregnancy losses obviously got a direct economic value or direct cost to the herd. So being able to spot them obviously brings in a herd economic benefit. So our question was around how can we use this PAG test? How can it be a valuable addition to a herd reproductive management program? And quite simply, our study question that we posed was, can we use this PAG test within a vet-led fertility program? So recognizing that the vast majority of herds are under vet-led fertility programs, whether that's weekly fortnightly, monthly routine visits. How does the PAG test fit in with that? And we undertook with collaborators with Raft Solutions, we undertook a practical, and I think it's important to understand it's a practical field-based study. So it was on real cows, on real farms, working with real farmers and real vets from the vet practices. And we had 6 study herds, typical of what we might see across GB. So there was a mix of seasonal and all year round calving herds. There was a mix, some were indoors, some were traditional grazing herds, and herd size varied from 180 to 740 cows. The important thing that we needed was that all these farms were on a weekly or a fortnightly routine vet fertility visit, and all these farms are on monthly NMR milk recording service. All the herds were considered to have good reproductive performance, range of different heat detection methods, from visual observation to sensors to monitor movement. And the herds were typically, their calving interval was around 375 to 400 days. So all herds were considered to be good in their reproductive performance. And we wanted to find out what would be the best time to use the milk PAG test. When's the best window to detect pregnancy loss? Okay, so we're just trying to identify those cows that have lost a pregnancy. And we wanted to do that in a timely way, such that these cows could then re-enter the breeding cycle. So in total, we had just over 1,000 cows enrolled into the study, and across the study duration, we did just over 10,000 milk PAG tests. So we had a large data set. And we did 2 parts to this. So we did monthly milk recording samples from our recruited study cows. They all had the PAG ELISA test on them. And we also took samples at the time, or samples were collected at the time that the vet did ultrasound pregnancy diagnosis. So there's just a couple of photos from it. Again, you know, it's practical, it was real life. It was, you know, real milk recorders taking the samples, everything just happened, posted through to the laboratory, analysed in the same way. So it was a very field-based study. So I just want to acknowledge there the participating farmers. Thank you very much to them, the vets that helped with us, and of course the milk recorders that helped collect those samples. So what do we see from all these tests that we did? And this graph sets out, so these are the pregnant cows in our study, and you can see there the black line is the median results, so the middle cow out of all of our cows, and the value of her PAG test. So you'll remember I said those levels rise at about 28 days, dip slightly, and then continue to rise on through pregnancy to the end of to calving. And there's a variation, so you see that there's a distribution. Cows are within that grayer band there, but the middle cow presented with that black line. So that's the normal profile of PAG testing in pregnant cows. But taking all those data and combining it together, what we wanted to do was to see what's the effect. How can we use this test to detect those cows that have lost a pregnancy, and how does that translate? How do we see that in real life on our study cows? So if I take the data, we've taken the data from those 1,000 cows and now sort of modeled it into a 100 cow herd, so it's easy to understand, to visualize what was happening. So from those 1,000 cows into this 100 cow herd, we had 88 cows conceive. So there was some selection at the beginning. So we wanted cows that obviously were going to have a pregnancy that we could follow them through. So there was a little bit of bias in the selection of those cows. So that's obviously a good conception rate. So 88 of those cows conceived. At that time, 7 lost a pregnancy after ultrasound pregnancy diagnosis. So pregnancy diagnosis done by the vet at around 28, 35 days, so early pregnancy diagnosis. Going in at 70, 110 days with the PAG test, the PAG test was detecting 6 of those 7 cows that lost a pregnancy. And the important thing from those 6 cows, that 3 of those were successfully rebred. So picking those cows up that are lost to pregnancy at 70 and 110 days still allows there's enough time there to bring those cows back round into the breeding cycle, and 3 of those cows were retained into the herd. The lower part of this slide shows what's happened effectively on the other hand. 81 of those 88 cows held the pregnancy, and of those 77 were correctly identified on the milk pag test as being pregnant. So that means there were 4 cows there that we would have pulled out. They went onto an action list, and that the next routine vet visit, the vet examined those cows and was able to very quickly actually say that all those cows were pregnant. And some of that goes back to, you remember the shape of that graph and the distribution, the variation of those results. So the results that we saw that we in our study model onto those graphs, and we can see how this follows through. But detecting 6 out of 7 of those cows that had lost a pregnancy and showing that 3 of those went on to successfully rebreed, obviously that's where the economic benefit kicks in for the herd. So I could start to talk some numbers about costs and what is the benefit of using the test. And this is, you know, I'm duly cautious about using cost estimates, but back of the envelope economics, if we're going to test all of those 100 cows, and it's £3.60 per test, it's £360 to screen the herd at 70 to 110 days, we're going to pull out a number of cows that were detected pregnancy loss. They're going to be flagged up for the next routine vet visit. There's a bit of vet time in there or examination of that. But even with that, we're talking of a figure that's, I've put a £380 cost estimate. So how much does it cost to get the testing done? And if we look at the savings on the back of that, those 3 barren cows that were saved re-entered into the breeding herd. Well, you know, there's an estimate there, it's probably conservative, £700 per cow. You know, the cost of a replacement is often quoted much higher than that. So there's a benefit in keeping those cows retained in the herd. There's also a benefit in identifying those cows that have lost a pregnancy, whether it's you want to remove those from the herd sooner, or you can manage those cows out. So estimates there, 200 days saved in terms of an open cow. I'll give you a value. We've got a value there of £2 a day. So you can kind of slot in you can slot in your own figures, but the principle is, you know, there's clear daylight between those costs and the savings on using the test. So this is really just a summary slide of what we did and what we're suggesting. So early pregnancy diagnosis by the vet there at 28, 35 days, and then follow up with the milk pag test at 70 to 110 days. And what we're doing is we're trying to find, are there any of those cows that have lost a pregnancy? Remembering back to one of those earlier slides, you know, we can expect upwards of 10% of cows to lose pregnancy on a normal basis after about 42 days. So after that vet PD examination. So that's the principle of what we're doing, trying to identify those cows that have lost pregnancy. You know, farmers often say they've got a cow in the dry cow yard that's just hanging on and hasn't had a calf. You know, they're the ones that we want to avoid. They're costly cows to carry all the way through with an undetected pregnancy loss. So to wrap up, many herds will have a pregnancy loss after pregnancy diagnosis, early pregnancy diagnosis. Using the PAG test between 70 and 110 days, we found in our study was a useful way to identify those cows that have lost a pregnancy, and importantly, identifying those enables those cows to come back into the breeding cycle and retain, successfully rebred and retain in the herd. And again, cautious with the cost test, the cost benefits, but there's daylight between those the costs associated with testing and a bit of veterinary time to examine cows against the savings of either open cows at the end of a lactation, or enabling those cows to come back into the herd and reducing replacements. And so that's me pretty much just in a fairly rapid walk through the PAG testing. What are our PAGs and what do we find in our study? There's more information, as always, there's more information up on the NMR website. If you search for the pregnancy test, and you can pick up the flyer info, and you'll see there the graph in the bottom right. That's the one that I've shown you in this presentation. So finally, just once again, while I can, thanks to all the farmers, the vets, the NMR milk recorders, and the lab teams for successfully running the study. Thank you to Raft Solutions for making it all happen, and Nick Taylor at the University of Reading for his analysis of the data. And just to acknowledge that the study was supported by IDEX Laboratories and NMR. Okay, well, with that, Kath, I'm going to pass back to you if I can. And if there are any questions at the end, then I'm happy to take those at the end.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Eamon. Right, I'll just whiz the screen back to me. Okay, so back on Herd Companion, so how this all fits in, I'll just move my control panel out of the way. Under the breeding and fertility banner, and also you'll find it under our report. So as I said previously, there are some overlaps with the menu structure here, just because they fit in both places. You can see over on this side, we've got preg test. So this is where the results of the PAG tests that we do lie. I'm afraid I haven't got any in my demo herd at the minute, but as soon as those tests are done, they may take, if they're done at the time of the recording, it may take a day or so after the recording results come through for these to be loaded in, but they'll certainly go in, and you'll then be able to see clearly, you know, the results of those cows. So if I just go to another screen, the preg status one just refers back to previous tests that you might have done. So we should see some ones on here. Yeah, so you can see all the fertility ones on there. So on the preg test, sorry, it'd be nice to have some examples, wouldn't it? But you've got result category here, which is basically pregnant, not sure. Anything we aren't sure on automatically applies for a recheck at no extra charge. And you've got the fertility status of NMR as well. So we don't update the status on your records, and that's something that may happen in the future. But if that cow is served as of your last recording, and then you do a pregnancy test and she becomes pregnant, you know, your status won't change until you do another recording again, or pop that information into NMR through a live link on software or in Herd Companion itself. Okay, now I've kind of got a couple of topics today that I wanted to cover. So that's the PD testing, and as Eamon said, we'll certainly come to questions on that afterwards. I just wanted to show you one other list on here, semi-related, but perhaps a bit of a segue here going on. But we've got the young stock list, which in Herd Companion terms is relatively new. I did want to do mobility scoring as well today, but I may leave that for another session, just to keep within our time constraints. So the young stock report, you've got then the ability to filter out by status, and it serves really well as an action list for all of your heifers. So you can see here we've got an all young stock default. There is a setting here, age to serve, and days at which to PD. So then we can actually alter the settings to say, right, show me all of the heifers to serve that meet that criteria. So they've hit 14 months of age, and of course you can change that setting, and then we can you can use that report to serve as an action list. Or equally, so you'll see then the status here, it shows you these are ready, as in ready to serve, they've hit that criteria, or open if they've had a service followed by a PD negative. The PD ones then, fairly straightforward, they've been served. So you can also group animals together, I'll show you that in a second, and then we've got heifers due to calve, like so. And these we've got maybe an overdue, so missing some data somewhere, pregnant cows generally on the whole. So if I do my group by with the fertility status here, then it gives you a nice overview as well as an average age of animals that are, or heifers again, particularly that are pregnant. So 44 of those, 21 months of age on average. So, and there's a pregnant star one as well. So you can see the differences there, and we can open up the expand each list to get a succinct list of those individual groups. Okay, so I'll just pop that one back in there. Now, as I said, mobility scoring, I think we will follow at a later date. What I wanted to do, perhaps more importantly, is run a poll. I haven't done one of these for a while, so I thought it was about time we had one. So this allows you to get involved a little bit. And this is part 5, as you know, of 6 sessions. Let me just launch this one for you. So if you can see on your screen now, just a little poll. Do you want more of the same? So we've got part 6 coming up next week, which is going to cover cell counts anyway. And I just wondered if you'd all like to vote, that would be fantastic. So just click on the screen. It's a multiple choice, but I think you can only choose one. Whether you have seen enough of Herd Companion, we have covered a fair chunk of it over the time. And as I say, part 6 next week is cell counts anyway. We've got some bits and pieces on the settings and how you can set up third parties and the like. So yeah, do feel free to make a choice there. I'll just leave that on for a little minute as it's, yeah, numbers are running up now. And based on your answers is whether we carry on. So yeah, so I've been keeping these training on Thursday. So this is the TOTS session really, which we've advertised quite a bit. Okay, so I think I'll close that one now. And then just share the results with you. There we go. So absolutely nobody has said no, you're all finished, which is marvelous. So I will carry on and just do bits and pieces. But yeah, it looks like we need to perhaps cover a few key reports to cover the whole suite of series that we've done so far. That's brilliant. Thank you all very much for pressing your buttons there. Right, so we will come to questions now. What I will do as well is just unmute Eamon and then he can chip in. Yeah, unable to vote, Helen, sorry about that. But yes, small webinars, absolutely marvellous. I shall keep going then as long as I am required, that's fine. And also your question, the difference between PD Plus and PD Plus Star. Yeah, do you know, that caught me out there. I thought it would be obvious as to what that meant. Let me just go back in, we might be able to work it out. It's not one I have seen before, I'll be honest with you. So if we go back to all young stock, and I'll just sort by status again. So we've got pregnant cows, that's fairly straightforward. This cow here, I'm just going to go and have a look at. She was, yeah, due to calve in July, so it looks like she's PD'd. Whether it's an assumed one. Oh, status not served. Okay, that's interesting, but we've got a PD plus here. Yeah, so nothing obvious, don't know. I'll have to find out and come back to you on that one, what that actually means. So it's a new one for all of us by the looks of things. Right, possibly a question for Eamon now. This is coming from Tom. Could you do a PAG test at day 42, then confirm again at day 100 and save vet costs and only get the vet for animals that need checking? Or does this not save money as you lose time?
So the simple, I'm unmuted, aren't I, Kath?
You are, yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you. Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. So the simple answer to that is, yeah, the PAG test can be used at 42 days. You'd get you'll get a test result to it. You know, note that not all pregnancy loss continues beyond that point, so it's only telling you the status at that time. But you could use the test at that date. My sort of you know, with a vet hat on, you know, I'm a big advocate of vet-led routine visits. I think there's a big merit in presenting cows for examination, and the use of the test, you know, a bit later at 70 110 days, it's a bit more time has passed in terms of picking up those cows for pregnancy loss and still in a timely way to get them back into the herd for rebreeding. So yes, test could be used at that time. I would keep it involved with your vet. You know, you are putting out those cows that need attention. Anything that's negative, I think, you know, the easiest thing if you're on a vet routine visit, well, that cow goes onto the action list for re-examination at the next visit as a routine. But yeah, in principle, you can use the test at 42 days. My suggestion, sort of preferred approach for it, is that check test in that window at 70 to 110 days. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thanks, Eamon. Yeah, come back to us, Tom, if you need more clarification on that. You're very welcome. Right, any other questions at all? Or if you'd like to just press your hand button instead, I can come to you directly. Nothing at the minute. Okay, we'll just pause that there. The other thing to say about this particular webinar, this is the first time I've done this as well, so we're all covering new ground here, but I've got a survey which should kick in once I close the webinar. It will actually take you to a survey screen. It's just a quick question. Again, if there were any burning topics that you wanted to cover on Herd Companion that I haven't already thought of, just a little answer on there to type in. So do have a look at that when we've finished. So that will pop up automatically. So if we're all done, I shall just finish off then. Back on my PowerPoint here. Just to say then, the webinars, as I'm sure you're all familiar with by now, they are stored on the NMR website. So you can go to software at the top under the training banner and then training webinars. So the ones that are following, as I say, next week we've got number 6. You can register for the new ones there and watch the videos of the old ones in the same place, or you can use our YouTube channel and find them in there as well. So this is next week's topic, which a lot of you wanted to see anyway, so that's brilliant. We're heading in the right direction. So it's cell count analysis, some of which we have covered in the very first webinar we did, but I'm going to dig a bit deeper, look at the types of cell counts in terms of new, first, repeat and chronic. So there'll be lots of sort of classic Herd Companion stuff on there. So do keep listening in. I appreciate all your attendance. We're doing really well on these and I hope they are of use to you at this time as well, where we're all a bit stranded. So I can't see any other questions coming through. Nobody's raising their hand, so that's absolutely fine. Thank you all very much for attending. As I say, the survey should pop up any second. Many thanks to Eamon for joining us today as well. That's been really, really interesting study there. Thank you all for your time and we'll hopefully see you all again next week. Stay safe.